Yes, here in Ghana is good evening. And yes, today too, we are going to have a continuation of what we were doing last week. Last week, we were looking at some reasons why we believe that God exists. Some of the reasons why we believe that God exists. So, if you are a believer, you should be able to, give your strongest backing to why you believe that God truly exists, right? So, you cannot be a believer where somebody you would ask you a question about why do you think God exists, and you wouldn't be able to give any good point to support your own faith in God. Yes. So remember, last week we are going to go through what we were doing last week. I've got the points here, so we are going to look at them, what we were doing last week, so that we know that that is what we are going to continue today, right? Okay. So last week we looked at one of the points as everything in existence has a creator. Everything in existence has a creator, and so we understand that as humans, we were also created by somebody. Everything in existence has a creator. And so we as humans were also created by somebody. So that was one of the points that we had to look at last in our previous discussion. That was last week, Saturday, right? We also looked at, on that same point, we talked about the belief that some people have concerning the Big Bang Theory, and that is what also science supports, the Big Bang Theory. So we looked at that and what that actually means. So we give a summary of it and try to link it to, well, people are saying, or we all know that everything that we see around us has somebody as a creator behind it. So why is it that when it comes to creation, then we are attributing it to something called Big Bang Theory? So just as everything we see around us was made by somebody, definitely nature was also made by somebody. So we looked at that point in there. And then also, excuse me. And then also we talked about the intelligent design behind creation, because you don't see something that works so perfectly, the way it is so organized, so functioning perfectly. It looks like the structure that you are seeing is there and it is serving the very purpose that is meant for. So, of course, looking at how things have been so well designed in nature, then we would say that truly somebody really made them to be so. Then we also talked about the interdependence that we see in nature, or the interdependencies that we see in nature. How in nature you'd see that plants depend on animals, animals depend on plants, even plants depend on the non-living parts of nature. So also animals depend on non-living parts of nature. Now, when we see all this kind of interdependence that exists in our environment, then we get the understanding that then truly somebody made it to behave so. Somebody made it to be so. Yes, it is somebody who actually designed that they should behave the way they are supposed to behave. Because since it is somebody's intelligent idea, the person made it such that this one should depend on the other. So the plant should depend on the animal. Animal depends on the plant. And we gave so many examples talking about even how some microorganisms that we don't see, they even do some work to clean the environment for us. So, all these things, if somebody did not intentionally make them so, somebody did not intentionally make them so, then have been behind this intelligent way that we are seeing them. We talked about the third point as interdependence in nature, and that was also very related to the intelligent design behind creation, right? Then we also talked about why we don't see God, because some people would say that, so if God exists, why don't we see him? Yes, so we answered that question. We answered that question, right? It was that we know that everything in existence, it is not everything in existence that we actually see. There are so many things in existence that we don't see. So the fact that we don't see God doesn't mean that he does not exist. The fact that we don't see God doesn't mean he does not exist. God truly exists. Yes, he exists. There are so many things that we see around us, or we feel their effects, but they are not, let me say, things that we can easily see with our eyes. For example, the air around us, we breathe in air, surely, but we don't see the air, but we breathe in the air. So it is the effect the air is having on us that makes us believe that air truly exists. So it means that, and that's even one of the points that we're going to dwell on today. It means that if there are some experiences that we are having those experiences of God, or related to a supernatural existence, a supernatural person that although we do not see, but that person has every influence on our lives in diverse ways, right? So what are some of the ways that this person influences us? So those are some of the things that we're going to look at in this particular session. Today, to be joined by our brothers, Mr. Samuel Boabeng and Pastor Foster Adagbedu. Yes, I'm waiting for them to join me up here so that we start the discussion, right? So for those who couldn't keep the notes last week, I'm going over them, the points that we made. The first point that we made is that everything in existence has a creator. Everything in existence has a creator. And so we accept that, yes, truly, there is a creator for nature. Nature also has a creator, because everything has a creator. We haven't found any new thing that just came from nowhere. Everything has a creator. Yes, and we also made people understand that if you have to trace back and tend to believe that the Big Bang Theory, as they are saying, that life started from something small, it began to grow in size, and there was an explosion, and that led to the formation of the planets, the sun, and our Earth, of course. So if you're going to believe that, then we also ask ourselves, that small thing that started the whole thing, where did it come from? So on the first point, everything actually in existence has a creator. And so the earth where we live on must also have a creator. Good. And then the second point was on intelligent design behind creation. So you can put that down, intelligent design behind creation. That was point 2 that we made last week. Intelligent design behind creation. Then point 3, that is the interdependence in nature. How we have realized that things that exist naturally, they depend on each other. So we have given so many examples, right? We depend on the sun, yes. We depend on water. We depend on so many things. Plants in turn depend on us. They also depend on sun, and that is so interconnected. So the interdependence that we experience in nature is an evidence that truly somebody intentionally made them to behave so. Then why don't we see God? Why don't we see God? Why don't we see God? So that is one question that some people would ask. If we are going to make all these points, so why don't we see God? They would also let them understand that it's not everything that is that affects our lives that we truly see, or that we actually see. Let me rather say so that we actually see. For example, air. We don't see electrons, but we have electricity. So we should understand that if we are to be fair in our judgment, then we would know that it is not everything around us that is actually seen, but we really feel the effect. All right. Okay. I'm waiting for Pastor Foster Adagbedu to join, and brother Mr. Samuel Boabeng to also join, but they are not here with us, so I should start. Yes, I should start. Please, if you have joined, remember to like the live, also share. Like the live and share. Today, I think I have to move on. They are not present with me now, so when they join, I will also let them come in with their points. Right. So the point number 5, already we have made 4 points, right? So the point number 5 is talking about our personal experiences. Our personal experiences. So our brother, Mr. Samuel Boabena, has joined. has joined. And so we are going to start. We're going to do it together. We thank God that he has joined right in time. All right, so we are going to do it together. So talking about our personal experiences, if we are going to give our evidence about the reality of existence of God, if you're going to give this evidence from a lab experiment, then we may never know God. Truly, never know God. God cannot be put in test tube and tested to know who he is. God is not put in test tube to know who he is. So for us to know and have that conviction about the existence of God, it's not a matter of science. It is a matter of belief. Because if the person chose not to let you easily see him, yet you would experience him, then you should know that it is experiencing him is very, very important to him. Right. And for so many good reasons, as we were even discussing the other time, it's good that human beings don't even see God. Human beings are not really respectful. So not seeing God is even helping us. That will make us better respect him. Even that, you see how some people would speak about God that day. To be interesting. Personal experiences. There are some things that we experience in our lives. You see, like those who are atheists, and those who don't believe in God, as we are saying, or those who are critics of the church, they would just come and then they would give so many points, so many evidences to why, or no, they don't even give evidences. They come with so many questions about why they don't believe in God. They come with questions. They don't have evidence. They come with questions. They are asking so many questions. You see, they forget that we are having some experiences. We experience God in so many ways that what they are saying cannot take us away from the experience that we have had. So, for example, I know that so many of us have had dreams. I don't know how many of you have had dreams that came to pass just as you saw them. It has happened to me several times. It has happened to me several times. Now, let's look at this. How would science explain to me, question Puni here, that the dream you had, which came to pass just like you saw it, sometimes those dreams would come, they would be like an advice to me. Sometimes they would come, they would be giving me information about something that is going to happen in the future. All these things happen. You get the dreams, later you find them coming to pass just as you saw them. So should I go on to say that God does not exist? When somebody comes and questions me that I should show him where God is for him to see God, he doesn't have any evidence. But the fact that I have dreams that have come to pass, where did the dreams come from? All those dreams that I was having, where were they coming from? So that is one question that we have to ask ourselves. Where were the dreams coming from? Or do I have an ability? Is it my brain has an ability to foresee things in the future? I know that it's not all the dreams that really come to pass. Some of the dreams, they're even funny. Yes, there are some of the dreams. When you have them, you know within you that, oh, as for this dream, there it's nothing to write home about. So you just ignore them. But there are some of the dreams, you see how real they are. Some talk about you, your own future, some decisions that you're supposed to be guided on. Those dreams will guide you on, and then you see how it will help you to, in the end, realize that you have made a very, very, very good decision. Yes. So those are some personal experiences, and I know some people, especially the critics, don't believe in prophecies, but we have had prophecies, several of them that came to pass just like they were said. Several prophecies. I remember there was a time when may his soul rest in peace, former president Professor John Ivata Mills of Ghana. When I saw a video of him on, I think on GTV or so, and he had gone to the late Prophet Joshua's church, and he was giving testimony about when he was told that although he would be president, but then the election was going to be held in 3 stages. It doesn't happen in Ghana that we have elections in 3 stages, because even after the first round, if there is a need for a second round, it is just one. So why would the prophet say that they were going to have it? They were going to have the elections on 3 different days. Wow! And that is what happened. After the first round, there was supposed to be a runoff, and so the runoff was organized. Now there was one constituency that could not vote during that runoff, so a different date had to be set for them so that the runoff would be organized. Now you look at this. It was prophecy that was clearly fulfilled. 3, as the prophet has said. I mean, are we going to say that it is a lie? I mean, there's no lie in this. The president wouldn't lie to us. He heard it, and it came to pass just as it was. Yeah, so the personal experience that we have really proves to us that God exists. So I've given the examples of dreams, spiritual visions, and prophecies, right? As some of the personal experience that we have, which make us more and more sure that God truly exists. Then I can also talk about something like promptings. Have you realized that then instantly something within you tells you are not supposed to go? Don't make a move. Just stay at home, relax. Or sometimes you're making a decision about something. Something just dawns on you that no. Don't take your decision in this direction. Rather, take it in a different direction. You do it the way you are prompted to do, and later you see how beneficial that decision becomes to you. Sometimes they take you away from danger, away from harm. Now, these are all personal experiences that we have that nobody can explain to us except for us to know that then it means there is something, a greater power, a greater force, a greater person somewhere who is influencing us, our lives, our decisions every day. Personal experience that we have. So when somebody is just jumps to social media and is asking all sort of questions, if there is God, show me your God, and all those things, we just let them understand that our personal experiences, the testimonies that we have in our lives, are things that no matter what they do, they can never have any argument against it. These are great evidences to us. Yes. Our brother Samuel Boabe has joined us, so we are going to let him continue with us on personal experience. I know that there are some personal experiences that he also has had in his life that he would like to share with us. That also makes him believe, whether in his life or some of them too in other people's lives. Of course, we have so much evidence that we together, or when we put them all together, we tend to believe that truly God is influencing us, and that is why we keep having those experiences. Yes, welcome. We have started a discussion, and we are talking about our personal experiences. I've mentioned the dreams, spiritual visions, and prophecies that we have, the promptings that we get within us that instructs us to do certain things that turn out to be beneficial to our lives. Yes. So please, do you have some points that you want to share with us on our personal experiences that we have? Please, did you hear me?
No, I'm sorry. The feed just got cut off and I came back in. So I did not hear. I think the pretty last part of your.
I can't hear you very well.
Is it better now?
Yes, it's very good now.
Okay. So I was saying that I did not hear the last part of your comment when you were addressing me. I don't really know. I did not really hear it. If you can take it again.
Yes, I was giving a summary of what we have discussed so far, that we have talked about our personal experiences.
Yeah. Okay.
And these are like testimonies to us. And it's very difficult for anybody to argue against them. So an example is that like the dreams that we have, the visions or prophecies that we have that come to pass just as we heard them. I mean, these are solid evidences to us that there is a greater power influencing our lives. And sometimes with the promptings that we have within us, we are prompted. Maybe you want to go somewhere, but something within you prompts you that don't take that decision. Don't go. Don't make a move. And when we obey, they become beneficial to us. Yes. So all those things, I mean, these are not things from us. Because when I hear something within me telling me not to do something, telling me not to make a move, telling me to change my mind on something and later becomes beneficial, then it tells me that truly somebody influenced that event and corrected something for me. And I believe it is also an evidence that God truly exists.
Yes, yes.
So
Okay.
if you also
So,
have some personal experiences that you want to share, yes, some personal experiences, or whether from you or from people that you know about that you want to share to give evidence or buttress this point of personal experiences as evidence that God truly exists.
yes. So, I think in terms of personal experiences, not just what I alone have experienced, but an
Mm,
experience that has been, um, I mean, a lot of people have encountered, whether they be Christians or even not Christians. I mean,
yes.
it's all over. Take for example, I mean, in the issue of healings, for example, I mean, miraculous healings where people are miraculously healed,
Mm,
from the hospital. I mean, they go to check, they go for tests, and doctors give them some diagnosis, and then through one way or the other, they are able to overcome whatever diagnosis that could be. And these are situations that the doctors themselves are unable to explain. I mean, it beats the medical reasoning of how that is possibly possible, how that can happen, or even talk of a woman, or women that that do not have wombs. I mean, this is a physical womb that, I mean, per all the tests have proven that a woman doesn't have, and yet she's able to reproduce. She's able to actually conceive and give birth. I mean, these are all mind-boggling and mind-blowing things that science cannot actually, I mean, sometimes they could give some kind of explanations, but believe you me, they don't make sense. I mean, those explanations don't make sense. They don't make sense. And then even some of the healings that sometimes, um, I mean, science could explain us, the human body heals itself with time. I mean, we are talking about with time, not in a matter of seconds, with time, you see. But these are all things that do happen. So at least there is an indication, even if not an indication to draw the attention of people to the fact that there is a Christian God, at least to point to the fact that there is, I mean, there is an influence somewhere. There is somebody or something somewhere that is, um, in a way, manipulating, if I will say, I'll use the word, or influencing the event or the course of things happening in the lives of people. These are personal experiences. Now, um, if you have not been in the shoes of the people who have actually experienced it, you can just brush it off. But to the people who have actually experienced it, they know something has happened. They are very much aware that this couldn't have been, maybe some the work of some fate or some luck. They know that this actually something, someone somewhere, has done something. Or let's take situations. I mean, I've read of situations where, I think you mentioned the issue of, the promptings. I've
yes.
read of situations where people have been.
Please, your voice is lower now.
I think it's a microphone. So is it better now?
Yes, please.
Yes. So I've read situations where people have actually been led, actually been led by, um, I mean, have actually been led to do things, or been led out of situations miraculously that they have been unable to explain. They have been unable to explain. And the people who actually experience these things, they are very much convinced. And they may be people who may have been agnostics, who may have been atheists, or who may have no belief in any God, but at least they come to the point of understanding that somebody, something may have happened, that there is an influence coming from somewhere that is not just mere luck or mere happenstance, like I mean a word that some people will use, a mere happenstance that it just happened. I mean, there is a conviction within them that this, as for this one, it came from somewhere. Somebody is behind this thing, or at least the word that most of the time is used is something is behind this thing. You see, so it points to influence that is over and above the human ability or the human capacity. It points to an influence somewhere that is behind these things. As to whether it is the Christian God, that I believe could be discussed later on. But at least there is that unanimous consensus amongst, again, the people who have had these experiences. And even sometimes look at people that the near misses. I mean, uh, when you look on YouTube, you find so many of these things. The fact that people are pulled out of, people narrowly escape accidents, narrowly escape a lot of things. And most of the time, there is that kind of surprise or that kind of that, as for this one, it is not just because of calculation that I calculated and I missed it. It is, you couldn't have missed it. I mean, you couldn't have missed it. Take the wheel of a tire that has been removed,
Mm.
on a highway,
Yeah.
and you happen to just miss it by, a centimeter. You couldn't have calculated something like that. You see, and so it's all of these things to some people, at least to some people, and especially to the people who have been in those situations. It points to an influence somewhere behind it that it is not just luck, but that actually someone or something was behind it. And then let's take miracles. So yeah, I think it's all in the light of miracles. So miracles. So one explanation that the famous John Lennox, the mathematician philosopher from Oxford. So the at least the famous example, or should I say definition or explanation.
Okay.
Hello, Gazi. Are you
Yes.
receiving me?
Yes.
Yes. So yes, the explanation he gives is, if there is a God who is creator of nature, or who created everything and is in charge, he is at liberty to feed into the course of nature new events. He is at liberty. And so, believing that there is a God actually makes miracles or those kind of situations make sense.
Mm.
So, how is a scientist?
Then we have a network problem from our brother's end, right? But he is explaining to us how healings as part of our personal experiences. Our brother, I think I've seen a message from our brother P. Aqua that says that for personal experiences, dear, over 1 billion. So we have over a billion experience truly God exists. And I know that, I mean, you the one listening, you have also had some experience that makes you very sure that God truly exists. And our brother Samuel Babin has given us examples, like there are some situations where you are so accident, you call on the name of God rescues you. And there are, things happen. Even when they didn't mention the name of Jesus, something happened, and you knew that this thing really risked your life, but there was an intervention from somewhere, and it rescued you. Experiences that prove that truly there is a greater power that is in control of everything that happens here on this our earth. So we humans, we are not 100% in control of everything. There is another force. There is a greater force. There is a greater power that is in control. So we have to accept it. Yes, we can't put God in test tube and test to see whether he exists or where he is. We know clearly that he exists. Yes, Kwame Bryan saying that the existence of God is indisputable. Of course, the existence of God is indisputable. Yes, it is only when pride comes in, then it encourages us to challenge God. But who are you to challenge the person who made you? Now we know that we were all created. Everything in existence has a creator. God has given us so many personal experiences in dreams, in spiritual visions, prophecies, in healings, the healings that we have. If you haven't had healing yourself, somebody has had healing. Some of us, we have experienced healing before, so we know what we talk about. Many miracles that we experience, and I know that's one of the points that our brother was talking about, but the line failed. Pastor Foster, if you are around, you can also join. Yes, if you are around, you can join us. I know that YouTube only allows 2 people at a time. So since there is a network problem at the end of our brother, you can join and point on personal experiences and move to other points. Yes, we'll complete the point on personal experiences and move to other points. Yes. So Pastor Foster, join us here so that we continue with the discussion. All right. And there are several other points about the personal experiences, the point number 5. That's our point number 5. Last week we ended on point 4, and this week we are starting from point 5. So for point 5, we have talked about personal experiences, dreams that we have that come to pass, spiritual visions and prophecies that come to pass. They all tell us that truly God exists. God exists. A critic would say that they haven't had any prophecy coming to pass, but those of us who have been fair in our judgments, we know that we have had dreams that came to pass the way we saw them. We have heard prophecies that came to pass the way we saw them or the way we heard them. And I've given an example. Yes, there are so many examples that I can even give if I would want to. And then the miracles that we experience, then how that in certain situations we are delivered from risks, certain risks that we put ourselves in that face sometime, and somebody rescued us. So God truly exists. Mr. Samuel, if you are there, you can also join. Now let's go to the point number 6. That is on system keep, whether to say they recur or they keep occurring. Systems and cycles that keep occurring. So what this point is telling us is that, there are certain things that when you study them very well, they tell you that truly, it is not debatable in any way. These are not supposed to be fair as humans. We should even bring it to the debate table. No. Imagine the human body itself. Imagine your lungs or how you breathe. Within the day, we breathe. As we are alive, within the day, we will breathe and we'll keep on breathing and breathing. Now, let's go to the night when you are asleep. You wake up and you realize that you are still breathing. Even within the day, when you are breathing, I wonder how of us will keep remembering that we are breathing within the day? You breathe throughout the day. That tells you something is controlling your breathing for you. Something is controlling your breathing for you. Now, if scientifically would say that it's the brain that is controlling the breathing for us, then the question is that what made the brain so perfect that whether during the day we are active, it is controlling breathing. When we are asleep, in the night, it's controlling breathing. That capacity able to carry out this particular function. Our heart keeps beating. The heart beats every day. Somebody's heart has worked for 90 years, beating every day, 7 days in a week, 7 days in a week, 30 days or 31 days making a month, then 12 months making a year, 90 years. The person's heart has been beating, working, functioning, not giving the person any problem, has been working like that. So this shows you that clearly somebody has made the body the way it's working, the way it's functioning. If it had not been programmed to be such perfect, if it hadn't been programmed to be the way it is, I wonder how the heart of a person should even be, to be beating continuously for even 1 year. For even 1 year, for even 1 week, how your keep on beating for 1 week. That tells you somebody has it to behave the way it's behaving. So that is on systems and cycles that keep occurring on systems and cycles. I've talked about the example of how our breathing works, the lungs keep working, whether we are awake or we are asleep. How our heart keeps beating, working so perfectly, whether we are awake or asleep. There are so many things that happen in our bodies. You don't know how. Even when you eat, you don't know what happens to the food. A lot of us, you don't know what happens to the food, how the food even arrives in your. Next time you feel hungry, you go and eat. But whatever should keep the nutrients from your food to be circulated, that thing happens by itself. You see, the near perfect way that the body is working is a very good evidence to the body to be so. If you're talking about if it was an accidental event like we were talking about last week, how can accidental events make the body be working in this perfect way? How can they? But somebody will ask a question about, so what about diseases? What about diseases? God did not make diseases for us. So if our bodies, you see, human beings, when we have created chemicals that are causing damage to us, when we have created radiations that are causing damage to us, then we later come and blame God that the body is not functioning well. When the body is not functioning well, then you know who to blame. We'll get to that point. Mr. Samuel, please welcome back. I know the network was disturbing us more. Yes. For now, we have jumped. We have moved to the point number 6. How systems and cycles keep occurring. Systems and cycles. So I've given some 2 examples and looking at some more examples about how things are happening and they are so perfect. We can't say that nobody made it to be so. Somebody intentionally made it well organized that way. So please, what do you have to say concerning the systems and cycles and how they keep occurring?
Yes, indeed. So take for example how that the sun, the sun keeps rotating around the earth.
Yes.
And how that, I don't know, I think maybe last week we may have mentioned it, but how could something that's accidentally happened determine that life exists not on any of the other planets that have now yet been discovered, those ones that have been discovered by man, not the rest that have not yet been discovered. How come that an accidental event could have determined that Earth is the at least the only place so far that can support life, and
And how could an accidental event determine that for this very planet it just needs one moon and not three, not five, not six? It just needs only one moon. And how could it have determined that, well, it should be this far away from the sun? So the perfect location of the sun with respect to the earth. And how come that, I mean, they all stay in their own courses, rotating at very perfect distances and times, and look at the the day and then the night. How come that, there is day and the body automatically comes to understand that at a particular time of the day it needs to rest. And so even though you would you would try to push it through, it will still rebel and would want to rest, because it's been created that way. It's been made that way. This couldn't have been an accident. An accident couldn't have produced the fact that the sun is not so near the earth to destroy everything in it, and it is not so far away from the earth to cause the earth to cool down, but that it is at a very specific location to the earth. These are not accidental. These are not accidental. These are perfectly, planned and perfectly designed by a creator. They are done by a creator, just as, just as, just as the creators of, for example, the maker of vehicles like Ford. He determined the the number of for example, the number of wheels that a car should need. That is not going to need 5, it's not going to need 3, that is going to need 4, because it needs balancing. You see, that is going to need a windshield, because otherwise the vehicle's movement, the human beings in the vehicle would have problems. I mean, how come? Because these are all the works of people, human beings, who actually determined that this is how it's supposed to be for it to be just perfect. You can't just say that, oh, it was just an accident. I mean, they just sat down and accidentally they thought, well, let the car have 4 tires. You see, or, oh, well, let us just give the car a driving mirror, a rear steering mirror. Let the car have a steering wheel. No, it couldn't have been an accident. It was perfectly planned and designed. And even actually with the human beings, they keep improving upon it every single year. They keep improving upon it. How could we determine, or how could we, refer to something as perfect as the sun, its location to the earth, as an accident? It just happened by accident. It doesn't make any sense for us to call this just an accident. No. Or let's take, for example, the sea. Who determined and who drew out the borders or the boundaries for the sea, that the rivers and then the sea should lie this way? They should be found here and not anywhere else. And that's even when we as human beings, when when the rivers or the seas overflow their banks, we see it as what? Unnatural. We call it a disaster, because we expect that the sea stays within the boundaries, that the river stays within the boundaries, that it should not go beyond it. And we expect that when it is raining season, like in June, July, August, for example, that it should rain. And that actually farmers and various people that actually use it to plan, they actually planned for these seasons, because they determine that, oh, at this particular time it is supposed to rain. Why is it supposed to rain? Is it because, you know, is it because just by accident, every June, July is supposed to rain? So that when it doesn't rain, we call it a drought. And we begin to think of it as what? Unnatural. Because it has been determined that at this particular point in time, let it rain. So could it have been an accident that, the Big Bang theory and just a random collection of atoms determine that, okay, well, in some part of Africa, we are going to just give them rain and shine. But well, in Europe and in other parts of the world, we're going to give them snow and rain and sun. Could it have just been a random collection? Or could it have been an intelligent being behind it, determining that, okay, these areas are colder and these areas are hotter. So these are the perfect conditions, weather conditions for them. That these areas are perfectly suited. And so, I'll give them this color of skin. I'll give these ones this color of skin. Could it have just been a random event that could have caused this to happen? These are all pointing to an intelligent being, an intelligent designer, someone with intelligence that actually thinks and that knows perfectly what is suitable for what he has created. These are pointing, and the excuse of a Big Bang theory does not explain it at all. It does not give any reasonable explanation to these to these things that we have talked about and mentioned. So I think I would pause here and then give it back to you, Chrissy.
That's great. We thank you so much for the on the point number 6 concerning systems and cycles that keep occurring and how to go the way they are supposed to, looking at the positioning of the sun, looking at the water bodies, how we even expect that the sea shouldn't overflow its boundaries, and how we or what even made nature aware or know. Nature can't know anything though. What made nature know? Also, when you said that, it has reminded me about something, because I know the moon tides, the tidal waves. So it just reminded me that. So just imagine a situation where we had about 3-4 moons, and they are all exerting their gravitational pull on the sea, because the gravitational pull on the sea, that is what causes the waves. So assuming we had about 3 or 4 moons, and they are all exerting their gravitational pull on the sea. I wonder how the sea would behave. It would have been the most unsafe place for us to stay on, honestly. So having just one moon speaks a lot. Clear, well organized system that has been created by the supreme being.
Yeah. And Kwesi, let me chip chip in this. You see,
Okay.
I think last week I did mention, or maybe I did talk about it, but when you watch National Geographic, and they are particularly, I like to watch their documentaries on these animals, and then nature and stuff like that, and you begin to realize that at some point in time of the year, these animals called the wildebeests, I think they are just like I think they are like, well, not goats, but I mean they are bigger. I mean they are called the wildebeest, and they are found in I think the East African plains. They have very, very large wildlife reserves, and at particular point, they are wildlife reserve that actually are connection between two countries. I mean, two or more countries in the Eastern African area there. I think Kenya, and then some of the countries, and you find out that In different parts of the year, the animals are in various parts of the countries. And at one point in time, the year, some way, somehow, all the animals begin to know that it is time for us to move to the other part. I mean, and these are not, you are not talking about maybe animals that count to about maybe 1,000 animals that you say that, okay, maybe somebody told them one by one. No, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of animals that suddenly begin to move at once at a particular specific point in time. They all get to know that it is time for us to go, and you find them moving in droves. They are all going. You find them moving in droves. They are all leaving, and it is a cycle. They go in search of food and water, and then those are the places where they go to reproduce. And then at the end of the day, after the cycle is finished, they also equally now get to move back. So that cycle keeps happening. They now move back to where they came from. Or even look at the sea. Even though there are fish living in the sea, that's where their habitation is. There are some point in time where they move from one place to the other. And the entire species know that the time is up for us to move. Who told them? Who taught them? Is it just some? And it's the same with birds. It's the same with birds. The same with, I mean, there are various species of animals in the world that at one point in time, and even here in Ghana, when we look in the sky, there are points in time you see birds traveling in droves. A lot of them in the sky. They are traveling. They are going somewhere. All of these things are pointing to some intelligent being that was behind it. Some intelligent being that has programmed them to know that, hey, at this point in time, it is time for you to leave. And when the time is up, they all leave. It's not, you go, I'm coming. They are all going at once. They are all leaving. So these are pointers. These are pointers that actually are drawing the attention of man to the fact that, hey, these things are not accidental. They are not just accidental, that hundreds of thousands of animals just pack their bags one day and then they are leaving. No. Something or someone is behind the scene that is informing their decisions. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I think there is this other point that I would like you to touch on, but I will let you finalize with that point. Okay. Thank you very much. So Pastor Foster Dagbedu will and is going to we're going to do another discussion on another point on this same discussion. Sorry, we're going to do the discussion on another point, right? On another point concerning internal morality, how that also points to the evidence that God truly exists. How that is an evidence to what God truly exists. Internal morality. Remember, the point 5 that we started with is on personal experiences. If you have joined, please make sure that you like the live. Like it for us, okay? Like the live. And if you haven't subscribed, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We ended on point number 4 in our previous meeting. That was on Saturday last week, right? I think that was first, yes. So in that meeting, we talked about some 4 important points. Let me see if I have them listed here. On everything in existence has a creator. That was point number 1. And there is intelligent design behind creation. That would make it very difficult for us to say that there is no God, because everything shows that we the existence that we see in nature, for example. Accidentally, no. Then the interdependence that we see in nature, that was point sense of God. Though we don't see God, but the experience of Him makes us sure that He truly exists. So today we started with personal experience, prophecies, healings, miracles, and then we talked about how people are saved. How people are saved in situations that could. Even times people don't mention the name of Jesus, then you realize that they are saved in very miraculous ways. And all those tell you that there is somebody, a greater power that is in control of events. We have talked about point number 6 as systems and cycles, how the body works, the near perfect way the body works as one great evidence that God truly exists. Chris Opokudria, Christopher, God bless you, man of God. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. I've seen a few Puni powerful. Thank you. I've seen Giftinyako. Thank you. Solomon Tibu, I've seen you there. Thank you. Yes. As for comments from P. Yakwa and Kwame Brian, I've read them already. Thank you all. So now we're moving to the point number 7, that is on internal morality. Internal morality. For the points number 7 and 8, I wouldn't be spending much time on them because those ones are very straightforward. Internal morality. How do we base on internal morality? And in fact, what is the internal morality cry we are talking about? What is it? And how is that related to evidence that, or pointing to the evidence that God truly exists? We have Pastor Foster Dagbedu with us, and he's going to enlighten us on how internal morality points truly exists. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting.
Yes. So please, we would want you to help us to understand what internal morality is and how is that related, or how does that in any way give us evidence that God truly exists?
Okay, so once again, thank you to everybody who has joined for this discussion this evening. And when we try to understand reasons why God exists, a lot of the things you have discussed already with Osopo Boabing. He made very solid points there. What I would want to say regarding internal morality is that every human being comes wired up in a certain way that makes the person know right from wrong. Even without having been told about any laws, every human being seems to have this innate understanding of what should be right and what is wrong. It doesn't just occur. That thing a lot of us like to call conscience, that for which reason, when you leave a group of people in a place, somehow, even without any written laws, they're able to figure out that no, this is wrong, this is right, this should not be done, this should be done. In itself, is an evidence that we are not just biological beings. We are not just biological beings just eating to survive. No.
Sorry, the network from pastors end is disturbing us somehow, but we hope to reconnect very soon. We hope to reconnect very soon. So we are talking about internal morality. And he has made us understand that within us, there is something that always makes us perceive and distinguish right from wrong. So although there may not be any law, instructing you about right or wrong, but you get to know it within you. Doing something is going against even yourself. There is this thing that makes you judge rightly that is going against either you or it's going against somebody's. I mean, it's not right. So that perception of right and wrong within us, that is the point that is making. So where did it come from? How did that thing come about? How did it come to be integrated in us, for us to within us get to know clearly that no, this thing is wrong and this thing is right? There are times when you may be in a situation nobody has informed you that this thing that you are talking about or this thing that you are doing is wrong or this thing that you are doing is right, but within you, you know it, and this thing I'm doing is right or this is wrong from it, or I would have to stop it, or if it is good, so I have to. What made you know that that is wrong, that is right? So that's the point Pastor Foster was talking about. But unfortunately, the network has been, or his connection has been disconnected. So we would have to see how we get back to it. So Pastor Foster, please do well to reconnect and let's continue. Please, if you have just joined the live, make sure you like the live, okay? Like the live. And then you also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't. You also subscribe. And please do. I know there are some of you who have been joining us every day, but share the link with I mean, so many beautiful topics that we're going to do later. So many beautiful topics, so many topics that you'd be so interested in, so many topics that we are all going to learn from. But it is very good that as we are doing this, we share with people so that we can all learn together. Today we are talking about our evidence about God's existence, what we are going to base on to all to help all of us to become convinced that God truly exists. What are the points that we're going to base on? It is not like we just believe that God exists out of our or information received from childhood. No, we have evidence. Apart from whatever that we have been told, we also have evidence. So those are some of the things that we are talking about. That in nature, what evidence do we have as part of our being? What evidence do we have to prove that God truly exists? So those are the things that we're talking about. 7 points so far. We'll end on point number 8 very soon. 7 points so far. Internal morality. Pastor Foster, please, you can continue with that point for us. God bless you.
Yes, so thank you. So when we look at plants, for example, we look at the wild animals, for example, you don't seem to see that they have a sense of right and wrong. I mean, a lion is hungry. It sees a pregnant deer and it is hungry. it's not bothered whether this deer is pregnant or not. I mean, there is no consideration as to whether this deer has children and no.
Yeah.
But for humans, somehow we know, we seem to know that no, this is not right, this is right. And that is one of the signs that indeed there is, you see, we are beyond just being biological and social. We are beyond biological beings. We are beyond just a series of processes interacting biologically in our bodies. We are also spiritual. We are also emotional.
Yes.
also, if there is such a word as consciental, we have a conscience.
Yeah.
And this part of us is what gets us to feel good when we do something good and to feel
Yes.
bad when we do something bad.
Mm.
And it is not just because when we do something bad, somebody will scold us. No.
No.
There is this thing about us. And so when you look carefully also, you realize that what we those of us who believe God exists, and I personally think everybody would have to seriously consider it and understand that indeed God exists. You realize also that we are doing things, or our conscience is leading us to do things that show that no, if this is what we are doing and this is what we say God is capable of doing, then indeed God exists. Indeed God exists. And as you said earlier on, it is pretty much quite straightforward. It's pretty much quite straightforward. If God didn't exist, we should just be like any other creation.
Yeah.
We should just be like any other creation. Who told humans today that it is wrong to sleep with your sibling and have children by them?
Mm.
In the world, there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
The mere fact that we have things like this shows that we are beyond just another species of creatures roaming the earth like any other thing. There is more to us. We are more than physical. We are more than biological. We are also spiritual. And it is one of the clear signs that there's a realm beyond the physical. There is a realm beyond the biological. The one who controls that realm is the one we are calling God. Yeah.
Wow. Powerful. Powerful. God bless you. God bless you so much. And then we talked about a point. The point number 6 was on systems and cycles that keep recurring, or that keep occurring. Point that you want to add to that one, or you think it's okay?
Yes. What I would like to add is that in addition to everything our brother Osofo Boabin said, you would see that when you look carefully, and especially when you like watching the animal documentaries and wildlife documentaries and all that, what you would notice is that we are not in a state of free fall. We are not in a state of anything goes. Not anything goes. Things seem to have been programmed in such a way that if something fails to do what it has been programmed to do, the whole ecosystem is thrown out of gear, thrown out of balance. Science has shown us that things happen are expected to happen in such a perfect way that it could not be happening randomly. For example, quite recently, and I believe the science inclined people would know that, as against what some of us learned in primary school, that the male human beings have testosterone and the females have estrogen. It will actually surprise some people, of course, not the science inclined people, that females also have some level of testosterone. They do. So who decides that, okay, for this particular human being, the estrogen levels should supersede the testosterone levels? Things happen in a very near perfect way, so much. And you see, cycles keep repeating, cycles keep. Today, there's so much noise about climate change and all that. Why are we crying about climate change? Why are we not just adapting to something different? Why are we not just adapting to higher temperatures? By now, we should be growing fins to allow us to exist like fishes when it is high tide along the seashores. I come from a coastal community. By now, after the several terrible experiences of high tide where the sea levels rise and then people's buildings and property are destroyed and everywhere is flooded and all that, added to all the noise about climate change and all that. No, but if our carbon dioxide levels are becoming unbearable in the atmosphere, by now we should be developing chlorophyll in our skin pigmentation to help us synthesize carbohydrates. After all, that is what plants are doing. So if carbon dioxide levels are getting excessively high, by now we would have adapted. But it is not so. It is not so because there is a hand behind it. There is a brain behind it. There is a design for these things. They are supposed to happen in a certain way. The cycle is supposed to continue and repeat. So much so that if anything throws the cycle out of gear, we are all in trouble. And that is why even those who do not believe that, even some of those who do not believe that God is the one who has programmed things to work like this, are spending millions and billions of dollars trying to get people to plant trees, to restore the cycles as they were supposed to be. So all these things, whereas some people may think that no, they actually disprove the fact that God exists, actually come to confirm that indeed God exists. They actually come to confirm that God. Why haven't we, with the industrialization happening all over the world, why have we not? Why are we so late in just adapting to the changes? It is because deep down within us, we know that these are cycles. These are things that God has programmed. People who don't like to hear the word God would rather say these are things nature has programmed. Well, the programming behind nature is what we are calling God. And so basically that's what I would want to add to the recurring cycle.
Thank you very much. I'm having some disturbance from my end because of the rain, but I managed to listen. Thank you very much for the powerful submissions that you have given, for the powerful word that you have given by God's grace. Yes, God bless you so much. I know today you have been busy within the day, but you still try to make time for this discussion. Yes, that is the core. God bless you. God bless you so much.
Amen.
Yes.
God
So
bless you.
we'll connect again, right?
Sure.
Possibly in next week's discussion. So we are going
Sure.
to end our discussion on the last with Mr. Samuel Boabeng. Again, So the last point with Mr. Samuel Boabing, yes, so he's going to connect. Then we talk about a very important, should I say, no, all the points that we are discussing actually they are important, but this one should place every one of us on alert. Yes, because of how sometimes critics and unbelievers sometimes behave towards us. It is like when you say, me, I don't like this food. It is not good. But you end up tasting it sometimes. That is the behavior of number 8. Yes. So Mr. Boabin is coming to help us on that particular point. And that is what we are going to end our discussion with. So please don't leave us. If you haven't liked this live, do well to like it before you leave. Before we end. And also remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember always to share the link. Even after this discussion, share the link with people for them to also enjoy the discussion that we have had today. We are talking about 8 points that all point to the fact or to the reality that God truly exists. So on point number 8, people blame God for misfortunes, yet they say they don't believe in God. Mr. Bobby, please, what do you have to say about this? Well, to me, it's
Yeah, I
very
think
funny.
yeah, that's
That's what I'm
very
saying. Like
interesting.
people who say
Yes,
that they don't eat a
and
certain food, yet they will end up tasting it sometimes. You say you don't believe in God, yet some things happen and you begin
yeah,
to mention God's name.
yeah, exactly. And so I think that is one of the arguments that atheists and agnostics actually use as should I say, as a punchline whenever there is the argument, or should I say, the issue of the question raised about the existence of God. So the argument that particularly atheists make is, okay, you say God exists. So the God you're talking about is all powerful, isn't he? Yes. He's all knowing, isn't he? Yes. And so then if he's all powerful and he's all knowing, why then the list starts coming. For example, why then did 9/11 happen? Why then did the killing of 6 million Jews happen, in the slaughter of 6 million Jews during the World War happen? Why then did the flooding happen? I mean, then they begin to list a number of unfortunate incidents that have happened.
Earthquakes, for example. I know earthquake is even one of the
Earthquakes,
things that they have.
yes, earthquakes happen and all of that, and you see very vulnerable people, children and women suffering a lot. Why then does a God like that happen? I mean, why then does a God like that allow such of things to happen? And then they make the argument that if this is the kind of God that is there, then I'm sorry, I don't want to believe in him. But the question is, fine, if we are only pointing to such misfortunes as a way to to just close the debate on God, because there are other things that ought to be discussed in those situations when we are going to refer to the misfortunes. But I don't think that is the aim for today, because there is the issue of the will of man. There is the issue of choices of man. There is the issue of yes. There is the issue of eternal accountability. I mean, all of these things are there, but it's a discussion for another day. But the point that we are making here is this. So let's take, for example, you see yourself, those who have found themselves in in transport or in public transport, where there's been a sudden, whether a sudden overtaking or a sudden, a near miss a lot, and you realize that anybody in the bus, there's one name that is going to be called Jesus. I mean, even by people who don't believe he exists, because internally, some way, somehow, even regardless of whatever they may think, internally, they know that there is one name that actually is able to bring some kind of a relief or salvation. Or you are walking in the night and you suddenly just step on something. Jesus, you lift up your leg because maybe you might have thought it's a scorpion or it's a snake. There is that kind of automatic reference to God whenever there is a situation that we see or we find ourselves in as rather shocking to us at the moment. But
This um a story that I heard about a man, a believer who was on a plane, and they got to a point where they felt like they were going to have a plane crash because of, I think, failure of one of the fans or so. So they
yeah,
felt they were going to have a plane crash. But there was this person, this believer I'm talking about knows, who claims he's an unbeliever and a strong believer in science. And when
mhm,
this happened, he happened to be one of the first people to mention the name of Jesus. So like it was
yeah,
spontaneous
mhm,
like that.
yeah,
Muslims who even mention the name of Jesus.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like just the word you use is spontaneous. I mean, people just do it. They just do it. It's not as though they've learned it or they've been taught it. They just do it because it's an inner there is an inner it's established in their inner being to just call on him at any point in time. But yet they would claim he does not exist. Or let me get back to the the issue of blaming God for unfortunate situations that happen. So then that my question is, supposing an atheist or an agnostic or somebody else who does not believe in God just comes up and then begins to make that argument. It is a non-issue because first and foremost, you don't believe in God. So why then do you come to blame my God? You don't believe in him. So you would ought to now find someone else to blame for the situations that are happening besides God. How do you explain it? How then are you going to be able to explain them? Because we have already talked about the fact that all of these things have been, I mean, and even why do you even call them misfortunes? Why do you then even create that word misfortune in the first place? If your belief is that everything is a random and accidental happening, then this could have also been an accidental happening. So why do you go and blame God then? If you are claiming that everything happened by accident and that nature happened by accident, the plants came to be by accident, the sun, the position of the earth, the human brain, everything that is happening came to be by accident. Okay, then the flooding, that is the real accident. So this even, you shouldn't even complain. You should have found your solution there. It's an accident. So you shouldn't blame God. So why then are you pointing to God as having been? You see, it is so unfair. Last week I did mention when we were talking about I think when we were talking about uh one of the points, I did mention that you don't have to. There are some questions that you don't even evoke God because it is unfair. I think it was the issue of having to, if God exists, why don't we see him? And we mentioned a lot of things that we don't see air, but we breathe it. We believe air is there. We don't see electricity. We see its influence. We don't see it. But it is that we don't see your brain, but you believe it. And so if all of these things you tend to say that I don't see God and so I don't believe it, it is so unfair. It doesn't even make, it's not even reasonable. It's not logical. You claim you have a brain. You don't see it, but you claim you have it. Why then are you saying that because you don't see God that he is not there? In the same situation here, if we are claiming or if atheists are claiming that God doesn't exist, that whatever we see, whatever happens, it is the random, random happening of atoms, or it was all by an accident, by a big bang. Why then are we, or why then are they evoking God in the scenario? Then the question is not, why did God allow this to happen? And so because of that, I don't want to believe him. The question is, you said, or should I say, the issue is, you said that everything happened by accident. And so then you ought to equally explain it that, okay, perhaps per the accidental happenings, this has also happened because this is an accident. So you have your solution there. You don't blame God. So if we are to bring God in the scenario over there, then we would have to go in depth. We have to ask the question, okay, if we are talking about God, then which God? Is it the Christian God? Is it the Muslim God? Is it the, and I think that's a very important topic, because most of the time, even some Christians think that, Christians and Muslims at least worship the same God. No, I'm sorry. It's not the same God. They are different kinds of gods. It's not the same God. I mean, this has been made very clear in First John. It's been made very clear. So, and in John as well, it's been made very clear. So, I think that's a topic for a different debate. So, we now have to evoke the point that, which God are you talking about? Is it the Christian God? Okay, if it is the Christian God, then we have to go into other things as the will of God for man. We have to go into other things as the choices of man. We have to go into other things as eternal, judgment, or the fact that there is judgment in the end. And we have to also talk about the will of God for man. And we have to also talk about the superior imposition of God's will, that God is all being. He does not need permission. He does what he wants. And he has already talked about the fact that he shows mercy to whom he wants to show mercy, and he shows mercy to whomever he wants to show mercy to. These are things then we can be able to open the conversation and talk about. But until then, God should not be evoked by an atheist whenever the issue of misfortunes are happening, because it's not just a surface issue that they can just talk about and brush away and go away. No, it is unfair to evoke God in misfortunes. So I think that's a point I made there. But the point is, they definitely will refer to God in those situations, and most of the time they only use it as a punchline to just get rid of God in the topic, or should I say in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is a very interesting thing, yes, for you to claim that there is no God, yet whenever there are misfortunes, you begin to mention God's name, you begin to challenge who that particular God is. That allowed these misfortunes to happen, and it's very, very funny, if we should say. God exists. God exists. From last week up to our discussion that we have had today, we have given some 8 strong points, that we have to base on to believe that God truly exists. Some 8 strong points for you to know that God truly exists. Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel Boabeng. Thank you very much, Pastor Foster Dogbedu, for the time, for every work that you have done, Lord, and letting the Holy Spirit work through you to impart to us this great knowledge about why God exists. And I know that the 8 points that have been made so far, we'd like to go through them, going to be very helpful to us. The first point, last week, we talked about everything in existence has a creator. So definitely God is the creator of what we have come to meet here. The second point is about the intelligent design behind creation, making us understand that there is nothing accidental about creation. It was somebody's intentional plan and his will to make them manifest. And then we look at the interdependencies that we see in nature. How in nature, one thing or one organism, one part of nature depends. Very, very, very beautiful. And then we answer the question on why don't we see God? And then today we have talked about our personal experiences, including dreams, visions, prophecies, healings, miracles, and the help that people get in very, very or near accident, threatened, when in danger, the way people are rescued. We have talked about that. And the point number 6, we talked about systems and cycles that keep occurring, how our body keeps working to near perfect, how systems, cycles in our environment, they keep occurring the way we have been seeing them. How can we then see that nobody made them to the way they do, to continue to exist the way they do? That if our bodies were made accidentally by evolution, I expect more errors than the perfection or near perfection that we are seeing in our bodies. I should expect the body to only be working just 5% in proper way. 95%, that is what we call accident. Accident doesn't really make things perfect. Yes. So then we talk about the internal morality, how rights and wrongs seem to be embedded in us. Who made us know what is right and what is wrong? But many times able to make decisions knowing what is right and what is wrong. Even when it is not by law or we haven't learned it anywhere, we know it. We perceive within us. So how do we perceive the rights and wrongs within us? It means somebody has placed something in us to make us act in accordance to his will, in accordance to how he has structured things. Then why do people blame God for misfortunes when they claim today too? God bless you so much for being part of the discussion today. Next week to also do more discussions. But remember, on Tuesday, we are going to meet our brother Robert and our brother Justice are going to be part of the discussion on Tuesday. Next Saturday, Pastor will join again. We'll join Mr. Samuel Boabeng to do another beautiful discussion. God bless you, and let's